When a man stays single long enough, chaos stops feeling exciting. It starts feeling expensive. At first, solitude feels uncomfortable. Then something changes. He sleeps better, thinks clearer, stops explaining himself, stops needing constant attention just to feel secure. And once a man experiences that kind of peace, most relationships start feeling very different. But many of them are not lonely at all. They are relieved. Because after enough years alone, a man starts noticing how much exhaustion he once called love. Over time, he becomes calmer. And calm men are much harder to manipulate because people lose influence over a man who no longer fears being alone. That changes everything. The more protective he becomes of his peace. After enough years alone, a man becomes very clear about what drains him. Fear of loneliness makes him tolerate things that slowly destroy his peace. Over time, instability starts feeling exhausting. The wrong relationship changes the atmosphere of a man's entire life. Rest feels interrupted. Silence feels heavy. Home no longer feels relaxing. A lot of men don't stay because they're in love. They stay because starting over scares them. And once a man gets used to calm, dysfunction becomes much harder to tolerate. When a man stays single long enough, calm becomes harder to trade for chaos. The more protective he becomes of his time. After years of living alone, time starts feeling personal again. You become protective of simple things, your mornings, your routines, the feeling of finally being left in peace. For the first time in years, your time actually feels like your own. And once a man gets used to that freedom, guilt stops influencing his decisions as easily. A divorced man once put it simply, "I didn't lose freedom. I got it back." David once told me something similar after his divorce. He said the house felt empty for 2 weeks. Then one morning he realized no one was waiting for him to explain his day. He sat at the kitchen table, and the silence didn't accuse him of anything. The more his nervous system rejects drama, peace changes what a man's nervous system is willing to tolerate, not loud arguments. The smaller things, the tension in someone's tone, the pressure to constantly monitor reactions, the feeling that you must stay emotionally alert all the time. That kind of environment drains people more than they realize. And once a man gets used to peace, he notices immediately when something disturbs it. I've heard men say the same thing after certain relationships ended. "I finally sleep deeply again." One man even laughed and said, "My blood pressure recovered before my dating life did." Not because they hated anyone, they just stopped living in a constant state of emotional vigilance. And once that feeling disappears, many men become far less willing to return to it. If that feels familiar, let the button below know you understand. The less he spends trying to impress. After enough years alone, a man stops spending money to look successful. He starts using it to protect his freedom. One day you look at your savings and realize they are thinner than they should be. Not because you were reckless, because you kept accommodating. When you are single, your money answers to your priorities. At some point, impressing people starts feeling more expensive than satisfying. You protect what you've built instead of proving anything. Because financial dependence quietly gives other people influence over your decisions. There are no quiet upgrades you didn't choose. No pressure to keep pace with someone else's lifestyle. The longer a man stays single, the more carefully he protects what he has built. The less approval he needs. Most men don't realize they've been auditioning for approval their entire lives. In relationships, you try to look stable, capable, still relevant. You soften opinions. You monitor reactions. You compare yourself quietly. It doesn't look dramatic. Most men mistake self-erasure for maturity. A man who constantly needs approval becomes easy to control, and many men spend years calling that being mature. Single life removes the audience. And once the audience is gone, you're left with something harder than performance: yourself. Michael admitted something most men never say out loud. During his marriage, he upgraded his car twice in 5 years. Not because he loved cars, because he didn't want to look like he was falling behind, as if there was a global scoreboard for husbands somewhere. Later, he laughed and said, "Turns out I was competing with my own insecurity." That is performance. When a man stays single long enough, performance starts feeling unnecessary. You stop trying to impress. You stop trying to keep pace. You simply live by your own standard. And then something uncomfortable happens. And eventually, a man notices how much of his personality was built to avoid rejection. That's the part most men never confront. If you think you've mastered yourself, stay with me. The next truth is where many men quietly lose their footing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your thoughts revolve around impressing others, you will never feel secure. The need for approval makes even successful men emotionally fragile. As you listen, notice which point so far gave you the most relief. Hold on to it. I'll ask you about it at the end. The harder he is to manipulate emotionally. When you are single, you eventually face a simple truth. No one is obligated to stay. That's uncomfortable, because you realize how much of your confidence was borrowed. Borrowed from attention. Borrowed from someone choosing you. Dependency quietly hands other people influence over your emotions. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If your mood depends on who texts back, who stays, who approves, you're not stable. Singlehood forces a man to confront dependency. How much of his confidence came from attention, from reassurance, from being chosen? And over time, the urgency to be emotionally rescued starts disappearing. That is the moment emotional pressure starts losing its power. That changes how he moves through relationships. Once a man can stand on his own emotionally, he stops lowering standards just to avoid being alone. The more focused he becomes. After enough time alone, distractions start losing their grip on him. Not because life becomes boring, because he finally notices how much energy meaningless things were stealing from him. Arguments that changed nothing. Conversations he replayed for hours. People who needed constant reactions just to feel important. At some point, a man starts asking a different question. What actually deserves my life? And that changes everything. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, your attention gets fragmented. But solitude pulls your focus back together. Your time, your thoughts, your direction. You stop reacting all day long. And once that happens, meaningful work starts becoming possible again. You return to ideas you abandoned, skills you neglected, goals you delayed because survival kept consuming your attention. When a man stays single long enough, meaningless distractions lose their grip on him. And eventually, he learns the difference between attention and meaning. The more comfortable he becomes with silence. Most men fear loneliness long before they ever experience it. They imagine silence as something heavy, too much time to think. But something unexpected happens when you stop resisting it. Loneliness softens. At first, the quiet feels unfamiliar. Over time, the mind adjusts. Then he realizes how much dysfunction he used to tolerate. A man who becomes comfortable alone stops panicking when people pull away. And panic is what manipulators depend on most. And calm changes the way people respond to you. Not because he hates people, but because he is not afraid of his own company. It's strange at first. No background commentary, no emotional weather report. Then it becomes useful. You walk without explaining where you're going. The house is no longer heavy. It is quiet. George once told me he thought the evenings would crush him after his divorce. Instead, he began cooking simple meals and playing old songs he hadn't listened to in years. One night, he realized something that surprised him. I forgot what I enjoy. That realization hurt more than the separation, because losing a partner is painful, but losing yourself without noticing is worse. Many men are not afraid of being alone. They are afraid of discovering how disconnected they became from themselves. It's like walking into your garage and realizing the engine still runs. You just stopped turning the key. Not because he missed someone, but because he had misplaced himself. After a while, the quiet stops feeling uncomfortable. Being alone is not the same as being abandoned. And once you understand that difference, fear loses its grip. The less desperation controls him. Some lessons only become obvious after enough time alone. The more you need a relationship to feel secure, the less ready you are for one. After enough time alone, a man stops approaching relationships from fear. You do not chase. You do not cling. You do not rush to secure something before it disappears. If a relationship appears, you choose it deliberately. You do not depend on it to regulate your worth. That difference is visible. Samuel had been single for years. When he met Laura, he did not accelerate the connection to calm his own anxiety. They dated slowly, no pressure, no urgency. Months later, she told him, "You're the first man who didn't seem afraid to lose me." That is what steadiness communicates. A man who has spent years alone stops entering in relationships out of emotional hunger. He enters them to share, not dominance, not detachment, strength. A man who is not in a hurry moves differently. Neediness speaks long before words do. Desperation quietly weakens boundaries. And when people know you don't need them, they respect you more. But respect from others is not the highest level. Freedom is, and that's where most men stop too early. The more honest he becomes with himself. After enough years alone, a man either learns who he is or realizes he never really knew. At some point, solitude stops feeling like something to escape. It removes distraction. And eventually, a man starts noticing things about himself he avoided for years. His habits, his fears, his need for approval, the ways he betrayed himself just to avoid being alone. You stop seeing relationships as proof that your life has value. And self-awareness changes the way a man moves through life. If you can spend an evening alone without reaching for your phone, you're ahead of most men. Solitude forces a question many men spend their whole lives avoiding. Who are you when nobody is watching? The person still trapped in the past, or the one moving forward with strength into the future? That answer quietly shapes the rest of a man's life. Because after enough time alone, pretending becomes more exhausting than honesty. When a man stays single long enough, he becomes much harder to manipulate into betraying himself. Because solitude changes a man slowly, it teaches him what drains him and what finally allows him to feel alive again. That is why some men stop chasing relationships, not because they hate love, because they finally understand the cost of losing themselves inside the wrong one. And once a man learns how to live without constant approval, noise stops impressing him. What became harder for you to tolerate after spending more time alone? If a part of this video felt uncomfortably accurate, I'd like to hear which part stayed with you most. And if you know another man quietly going through this kind of change, share this video with him. Like, comment, and subscribe to Move or Die Stoic if you're learning how to stand steady without losing yourself. Some men fear solitude. Others are transformed by it. Because once a man no longer fears being alone, pulling him away from himself becomes much harder.